stop climbing. In the clinical terminal of the apex, the social ladder is a strategic treadmill. Look at the pyramid. The base is made of millions who believe that hard work and loyalty will move them to the top. The truth? The top is already occupied by those who designed the geometry. It is a static extraction model. You have been raised on the nice guy program that tells you to respect the chain of command and earn your place. The truth? Earning your place is just paying a lifetime of rent for a position that can be deleted in a second. Understand the status of the hierarchical slave. In the social grid of 2026, hierarchy is a neural constraint used to modulate your ambition. The marauders and useful idiots want you to compete for their titles and certificates because as long as you are competing, you are governable. The master predator performs a total positional liquidation. He realizes that manipulation doesn't happen from the bottom up. It happens from the outside in. By choosing hierarchical autonomy, you aren't quitting the game. You are hacking the rules. You are moving from a component of the structure to the architect of the void. Next, we audit the architecture of the ghost authority. Why is non-participation the most effective state for manipulating the hierarchy? Because it creates unindexable stuff. The system cannot control what it cannot rank. If you don't need their promotions or approval, you become a systemic anomaly. The architect treats the hierarchy as a field of variables. He doesn't respect the boss. He audits the boss's dependencies. This distance allows for maximum leverage. Your content carries a subatomic authority because it is a raw projection of sovereignty that refuses to be categorized by the herd. Why is hierarchical manipulation the only way to sustain the 450 strike daily barrage? Because following the rules is mechanical friction. If you play by their geometry, you are subject to their gravity. But the master predator treats his intent as a sovereign force. He has removed the friction of social permission. This is how he captures the focus of the masses while the disposable males are still waiting for their turn. He doesn't wait. He displaces the center. He has moved from seeking a seat at the table to being the table everyone wants to sit at. Why is systemic displacement the only one that wins the simulation? Because the simulation is a ranking trap. The herd wants to label you so they can control your value. This is atmospheric sabotage. But the master predator knows that absolute autonomy is his primary multiplier. You have moved from being a successor in their hierarchy to being the source of a new order. You have turned your exile into a high-resolution command center where you manipulate the 43 million income potential of the grid by governing the desires of those still trapped in the pyramid. You are the ghost that has mastered the art of the positional kill. The screen is glowing. The room is silent. You are feeling the geometry of the hierarchy being deleted from your neural pathway. You are looking at the social ladder and seeing it as infrastructure for slaves. You are feeling a cold, clinical sense of invisible dominance. The nice guy wanted to be the best employee is being liquidated. The hunter communicates the override grid is at the core. Your 450 strikes are the commands of the outside. The mass attention, the result of impact, is the occupation, the audit of your rat club. We are moving from the the protocol. Stop looking around. Start looking at the net. In the clinical terminal of the apex, every authority figure is just a collection of vulnerabilities. Look at the structural beam holding up the pyramid. It only works because of the tension and the load. If you remove the tension, the beam becomes a liability. It is a strategic leverage. You have been raised on the nice guy program that tells you to respect your elders and follow the leaders. The truth? Leaders are often just high-status hostages of their own reputation and their need for your compliance. Understand the status of the dependency auditor. In the social grid of 2026, power is a neural illusion projected onto the mediocre. The marauders and useful idiots believe the hierarchy is solid, but the master predator performs a total audit of the anchors. He asks, what does this leader fear losing? Is it their status, their capital, their secret, their comfort? The moment you identify the internal dependency, you no longer see a superior, you see a target. By choosing leverage logic, you are moving from a subject to a systemic blackmailer of reality. Next, we audit the architecture of the sovereign pressure. Why is non-need the most effective lever for manipulating the hierarchy? Because it creates infinite resistance. The system can only control you if it can offer you a reward or threaten you with loss. If you have already liquidated your need for approval and your fear of exile, the hierarchy has zero grip on your soul. This frictionless state allows for maximum counterforce. Your content carries a subatomic weight because it is a cold command that doesn't ask for a place in the grid. It displaces the existing noise through the sheer density of its autonomy. Why is commanding dependencies the only way to sustain the 450 strike daily barrage? Because appeasement is mechanical drag. If you try to please the hierarchy, you are limiting your own velocity to match their slow, decaying rhythm. But the master predator treats his intent as a universal solvent. He finds the gaps in their authority, the things they are too afraid to say, the truths they are too soft to face, and he fills those gaps with his 450 strike barrage. This is how he captures the focus of the millions while the disposable males are still trying to get a promotion. He doesn't want a promotion. He infects the infrastructure. Why is tactical leverage the only one that wins the simulation? Because the simulation is a fragile architecture of ego. The herd wants to believe the hierarchy is natural, so they don't have to feel like cowards for obeying it. This is atmospheric sabotage. But the master predator knows that absolute sovereignty is his primary weapon. You have moved from being a tool of the hierarchy to being the operator who decides its expiration date. You have turned your exile into a high-resolution vantage point where you manipulate the 43 million income potential of the grid by squeezing the structural cracks of the old world. You are the ghost that has mastered the art of the leverage kill. The screen is glowing. The room is silent. You are feeling the tactical leverage protocol, replacing the social respect in your neural pathways. You are looking at the authorities and seeing them as obsolete software. You are feeling a cold, clinical sense of invisible command. The nice guy who wanted to be a good citizen is being liquidated. The hunter who communicates through the override of the grid is at the controls. Your 450 strikes are the commands of the auditor. The mass attention, the result of the impact, is the occupation of the void. The audit of your submission is closed. We are moving from the leverage to the protocol of the sovereign infiltration. Stop joining. Start occupying. In the clinical terminal of the apex, your membership is a biological infection of your sovereignty. Look at the cuckoo bird. It doesn't build the nest. It doesn't participate in the social work of the original inhabitants. It places its intent inside the structure and lets the system fund its growth. It is a sovereign infiltration. You have been raised on the nice guy program that tells you to be a team player and integrate into the company culture. The truth? Company culture is a behavioral cage designed to make your 450 strike intent subservient to the collective mediocrity. Understand the status of the stealth occupant. In the social grid of 2026, every hierarchy has a vacuum of real power. The marauders and useful idiots occupy the titles, but they lack the functional authority to execute. They are bureaucratic ghosts. The master predator performs a total audit of the status vacuum. He asks, where is the decision-making actually happening? He doesn't seek the front row seat. He seeks the control panel. By choosing infiltration logic, you are moving from a subordinate to a sovereign virus that the hierarchy cannot eject because it has become dependent on your output. Next, we audit the architecture of the status quo. Why is internal exile the most effective state for manipulating a hierarchy from within? Because it prevents social capture. If you don't eat in their cafeterias, laugh at their jokes, or fear their HR reviews, you are functionally ungovernable. The architect treats his position as a tactical bridgehead. He uses the hierarchy's resources, its data, its capital, its network, to fuel his monolith. This sovereign distance allows for maximum strategic clarity. Your content carries a subatomic authority because it is a cold command from a unit that is present in form but absent in allegiance. Why is occupying the vacuum the only way to sustain the 450 strike daily barrage? Because internal politics is mechanical friction. If you spend your time climbing, you are burning the high-octane fuel intended for your 43 million income objective. But the master predator treats the hierarchy as a low-resistance transmission cable. He sends his intent through their channels without being diluted by their social friction. This is how he captures the focus of the masses while the disposable males are still trying to fit in. He doesn't fit in. He parasitizes the infrastructure until the infrastructure is his. Why is infiltration the only one that wins the simulation? Because the simulation is a rigid cage of traditions. The herd wants to lock you into a role so they can predict your next move. This is atmospheric sabotage. But the master predator knows that absolute autonomy is his primary shield. You have moved from being a successor in their lineage to being the predator who inherits the void. You have turned your presence into a high-resolution Trojan horse where you manipulate the 40 million income potential of the grid while the authority figures are still managing the ops. You are the ghost that has mastered the art of the sovereign takeover. The screen is glowing. The room is silent. You are feeling the sovereign infiltration protocol, deleting the need to belong from your marrow. You are looking at your superiors and seeing them as logistical buffers. You are feeling a cold, clinical sense of invisible occupation. The nice guy wanted to be a loyal member is being liquidated. The hunter communicates through the override of the grid is at the control. Your 450 strikes are the commands of the virus. The mass attention, the result of the impact, is the occupation of the void. The audit of your loyalty is closed. We are moving from the infiltration to the final protocol of the sovereign. Climb the structure, only to find that the air at the top is just as stagnant as at the bottom. They are high-status prisoners of the very hierarchy they built. But the architect knows that the highest form of power is to be the gravity that holds the structure together while standing entirely outside of it. Your 450 strike daily intent is the neural and strategic force field that makes your cold autonomy permanent. You aren't part of the hierarchy anymore. You are the operator of the infrastructure. Think about the final extraction of the social status. Why does the herd fear the one who has completed the final audit of the pyramid? Because a sovereign man is unrankable. If they can't title you, they have no handle on your destiny. The herd is terrified of your sovereign distance because it is a mirror of the void. In a world of 2026 where everyone is clinging to their job titles and social rankings for a sense of identity, the architect is the only solid reality. By ruling through disconnection, he has become the invisible administrator of their insecurities. He doesn't ask for their 5 million view engagement. He formats it as a systemic tribute to his own frequency. Understand the status of the absolute command. In the social grid of 2026. Everything inside the system is targetable. Your promotion is a target. Your legacy is a target. No sovereign infiltration is stealth. By staying in the tactical void, you have achieved systemic escape velocity. You are moving too fast for the marauders and useful idiots to ground. You are currently renting your work from the herd's hierarchical approval. The sovereign architect owns his reality, the vacuum. Your success is the proof of your strategic independence. You have turned your exile into a high-resolution power plant. You are the only unit that is functionally superior because you are the only one who has deleted the compliance code. Next, we audit the end of the hierarchical simulation. Why is the sovereign the only way to protect the monolith? Because the world is currently a focused drain machine. If you climb, you are drained. No, if you are sovereign, the system has no way to bleed you out. You can execute the 450 strike barrage without a single social friction. You can manage your global empire from the shadow ground while the world thinks you are a myth. You have successfully decoupled your mind from the herd's suicidal rank. You are the operator's architect while the herd is dying for a tight. Here is the viral ultimatum. The manipulation of the social hierarchy is now fully integrated into your marrow. You have the genetics, the leverage, the infiltration, and the reign. You are no longer a unit of the simulation. You are the chief executive of the sovereign void. Take this protocol and inject it into the minds of the loud slaves who are still trying to be the boss in a cage. Share this with the man who is terrified of losing his job. Send this to the one who is still funding the mediocrity of others with his submission, not to help them. The architect doesn't do empathy, but to trigger the override. We are building an empire of sovereigns who recognize only the law of the 450 strikes and the weight of the monolith. Every share is a hierarchical liquidation. Every save is a vow of tactical stillness. Look into the glowing screen of your device. The room is silent, and you are the absolute sovereign of your own vacuum. The nice guy is a ghost in a jar. The architect is the root user of the void. Your 450 strikes are the commands of code. The mass attention, the result of the impact, is the result of the sovereign. You have turned your exile into the foundation of your throne. The audit of the hierarchy is closed. The laboratory is sterile. The reign of the sovereign architect has begun. System check. 100% hierarchical sovereign. Target. Global frequency capture. Status. I am the architect. I am the law. I am the source. Stop being a climb. Become the architect that the system cannot rank. The forest is quiet. The architect is ruling. Be the apex or stay the biomass. The transition is complete. The reign is exit. Rule with autonomy.